of trying to betray Fedora or to mischaracterize Fedora, because lots of the people who were complaining to Jono were people from the RPM camp and people who weren't too happy with Ubuntu deviating and walking away from Shell, which was mainly developed by Red Hat and Fedora people. Try to give you his name is Sean. Let me just try and find his article.
While you're looking at that,
yeah.
I'll just mention why I brought this up. I mean, we had a discussion last episode about trolls, so I thought this was quite relevant just to briefly mention, purely because obviously both yourself and myself have had experience of trolls on our sites, and this open respect obviously is trying to promote a respect between different people's viewpoints.
I don't think it's about trolls actually. That's the interesting thing. I think the site. I got into a couple of, or 3 times I was talking to John about the site, and I tried to keep things okay with him. But I told him I don't want to go as far as trying to suppress people's ability to argue or to disagree, because I felt it's kind of, when people start to put those banners on the sides, and they put it in canonical, employees start to put these banners saying open respect on the side, it's kind of like a warning saying, don't disagree with me, or, I don't accept feedback of a person, or if you speak to me, you have to respect my opinion. And respecting the opinion is a very tricky thing as far as free speech is concerned, because as far as I know, you have these things like blasphemy laws being proposed, and that's basically you respect my opinions, but basically not talking against my opinion, ever. And that means like all kinds of people want shields from criticism in all kinds of circumstances, and they call it, you have to respect my opinion. Well, that's violating somebody else's freedom of speech. And as long as you're polite, I think you can express disagreement.
Yeah, I mean, I interpreted Jono's Open Respect campaign more of that. Obviously, we've all got different opinions, myself and yourself included. And I think I would like to interpret it as being something where, obviously, we're going to disagree, but we do it politely. I mean, I've got no problem with people saying, that they prefer one product over another, as long as it's kept polite and decent. I think where my problem lies is with people that are insulting, that can't put an argument or a point across without being insulting and trying to upset people. And that's what I'd like to think Jono is trying to push with the open respect. Like I said to you before, I have a lot of time for Jono, and I think that's what I read he's trying to do with this whole campaign. I think it's a good idea. I don't think if there was anything to sign up to, I could ever sign up to it, because as we see, there are certain people out there in the on the web who won't ever conform to polite conversation, and I go out their way to post something insulting just because they can, which is a shame, because it would be nice if we could all get along and obviously not have to read insulting and vulgar text directed at ourselves. But so I just thought I'd mention that.
I should say, I found the article he talked. It's actually an article from today. It's not exactly an article. It's more of an opinion piece from a journalist, and he put it in his blog because it's a bit controversial. His headline says, "Did Ubuntu disrespect Fedora Linux with open respect?" And I haven't read the whole thing fully, but what I'm seeing is that the meat of his argument in the middle, he basically is against Jono, and he says, I haven't actually spoken to Jono about it to confirm his point of view, but what he's trying to tell you that what was happening here with the engagement with Fedora and then kind of doing it without the authorization of Jared, he basically takes the...
But then, I mean, Jono's fully within his rights to go ahead by himself if he wants to. This is all about respect at the end of the day. When I've read the whole site, and it's a very detailed document that Jono's written.
Yeah.
There's nothing controversial in there. There's nothing. It is just about getting on and being polite to people and being tolerant.
I see there is an update here. So after he wrote this, apparently Bacon contacted him, and he has responded in the comments below with this post admitting a screw up of sorts. So Bacon basically admits he did something wrong, and just to give the short story as I read through it, he basically knows he didn't do something right, so he kind of admits a screw up, as he calls it.
But I read that response by Jono, and I think there shouldn't have been a reason for him to make an apology. If the other the other gentleman from Fedora felt so strongly, he's fully within his right to make his own open respect legislation and policy if he wants to. Yeah, and at the end of the day, we are just talking about being decent to people, what it comes down to, and having polite conversation. And like I say, I think it's an excellent ethos to promote. But as both, I think, myself and yourself have seen, there are some people around there that don't want to ever, to speak in this way and to be polite and to not be vulgar for whatever reason. So that was that. Moving on, well, staying on with the Fedora subject, this was actually quite a new piece of news. It came to me via RSS literally about an hour before we started to record, or maybe a bit more, from digitizer.com, and it's they're talking about Fedora maybe going the same way as Ubuntu and going with Wayland. There's not a lot of detail on it, but what they are suggesting is maybe in Fedora 15 it's going to be present only so that developers can play around with it.
Based on the I saw the message in the mailing. I think it's probably based on some of the correspondence there with Red Hat employees and the Ubuntu people about this subject. And I have I posted quite a few hours ago with the actual message where Red Hat says in version 14 they're seriously look at using Wayland for the release, but they aren't so sure yet. Now, it kind of changes how people view this situation, because lots of people were accusing Ubuntu of moving to a different how should I, it's a different server for graphics. It's built as a server, so and one of the nice things about moving away from the old one is the things to do with size and performance, and people will also talk about license. So you probably know X has got a license that's kind of less GNU/Linux oriented. It's kind of a bit of an odd license to use. So, are you still there?
Yes, I'm still here.
Yeah, something changed in the audio. Okay, so basically now if people accuse Ubuntu of changing something, they have to accuse Fedora as well. It puts Ubuntu in a much better situation. They can actually defend themselves based on the fact that it was inevitable and that Red Hat was going to move anyway.
It's like I say, this just gets to about an hour or so we'll see where it moves to. But it caught my eye, so I thought I'd keep mentioning it. So we have got another sort of Fedora theme today. I've got a few bits and pieces to mention about Fusion. If you're happy to move on to sort of the Fedora chat and the final part of the show, we'll go with the Fusion. If there's any other topics you want to add or anything else that's caught your eye today, Will?
Probably went through quite a few of them. I think we should rush and try and talk about Fedora, because I have quite a few things
Shall I just give my observations about Fusion first, and then you can take up from the end of that with your chat on Fedora?
Sure.
Right, yeah, I've had the opportunity today to very briefly run Fusion. It's a very nice little distro. It's probably the first distro that I've ever used where the defaultly packaged, it has most of the applications that I require. Now, I know there's a lot of people that have a lot of opinions about some of the choices that I would personally make. And there's some very good packages here, and some very unusual choices, and some very disturbing choices as well for me personally, which makes me sort of very unsure about this distribution. On one side, I want to praise it because I think it is very good, and on the other side, I want to criticise it. So what I'll do is I'll go through some of the packages that are involved here. We have GIMP 2.7, which are obviously a great package. There's nothing really I can say there. Firefox 4 Beta. Again, I'm a Chromium user, not a problem though. Firefox 4, fantastic. We have FSpot instead of Shotwell, which I'll come back to at the end. K3B for your CD, DVD burning, which is brilliant. I use that, even though it's a KDE app, I use that over Brasero any day. You have Play on Linux for your any sort of Windows binaries that you have. Then you've got Tomboy instead of Gnote. You've got Crusader as a file manager. and Thunderbird instead of Evolution, which is great because I've been a Thunderbird user for years, and I think it's far superior. So after playing with it for a couple of hours and just briefly having a look at it, it's sort of left me sitting on the fence because they made some very good choices